Welcome back, CyberQuest Emergency Pod. Called upon by Danny Kim. Today he saw that CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, that's a mouthful, by the way, is going to launch their first nationwide PSA to teach American basic cybersecurity habits. In other words, good cyber hygiene. Why? Because according to the CISA director, we face every 11 seconds, there's a cybersecurity attack. The cybersecurity damage that it's going to do to businesses and industries will reach $10 trillion by 2025. And so, Danny, why emergency pod? Let us know.
Well, first of all, for CISA to make a public service announcement to alert every citizen in the U.S. to take safeguards, and now they're not making it a law. I think they would if they could. But think about the last time kind of a public service announcement of this safety level was done was when the seatbelts were introduced and made into a mandatory law. What they're realizing, and seatbelts saved millions of lives over time. They saw the damaging effect that not having seatbelts cause when you had car accidents. Now we're driving computers around the world in connectedness, like way more than the proliferation of cars were back then and even today, without any safeguards. And so what they're seeing is not only safeguards to yourself, but it's really to the nation, the infrastructure of the nation. And she actually brought out some very frightening things. Because I think the interviewer asked, what's the biggest threat? And she said it's ransomware. And ransomware has gone up tremendously. But here's the important thing she brought out. Ransomware, not just to the largest companies. And I think what she was highlighting is these large companies, they have millions of dollars and armies of IT security professionals to try to mitigate this. However, she said the biggest threat is to high target areas that are target-rich areas,
poor. Yeah.
cyber poor. Hospitals. Imagine if you're in a remote hospital, which is cyber poor. It's kind of a new term, cyber poor, right? Schools. Think about all of the kids and all the data and disruption in education, but even local utilities, right? The type of disruptions it can have. It's really a concern because security awareness, even individual awareness that you can do is not going to mitigate that. You're going to have to go to every small single organization and change the way they do business.
Well, first of all, I see a business opportunity there, but that's for a different pod. Second, what have we done as a school to not become a target for rich or cyber rich or rich cyber? What is the term actually?
Cyber poor industries or companies. So it's companies or organizations that are in the low end of cybersecurity deployment. And cyber poor means that they have not either thought through or deployed enough cybersecurity countermeasures.
Well, have we done enough as a school?
For Valley Christian schools?
Moses, do you think we've done enough? I
think, I'm supporting our AMSI Institute and Quest. We actually do have a global footprint. We've sent devices around the world for international classroom and an extension of our curriculum. And some people could say, oh, you just unbox a Oculus and you set it up, but it actually is remotely managed by us, right? So we're not allowing this device to get in someone's hands and be an entry point into our intellectual property or our just our student data, right? Every student is essentially connected, right, within our network. And so I'm just to give you some proof or at least industry perspective here. Before I came to this school, I can answer. I actually had to clean up a mess that I inherited, right? Some breach where HR was the target. So in a business, right, HR has a lot of information, right, about employees, social security numbers, all of that. And this was very early on when Bitcoin was just maybe like $400 a Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
And they held the HR's computer with the network drive access, that all those permissions, with ransom, 1 Bitcoin. And then HR was like, I gotta work. Like, this is like, I can't process new employees and all of
Sure.
that. And so the downtime incurred, and mind you, this was only, a small organization, right? We're talking a state funded childcare institution. That is I mean, you think about that. That really is kind of the example case. They were very much mission driven, right?
Yeah.
Supporting those needs of the low income families.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the technical prowess, the expertise, and they were the target. And I mean, thankfully we didn't have to pay the ransom, and we had a backup. But it's the downtime, it's the potential. Now you have the compromise. You have to let everyone know, and so it really is a mission to educate our employers, employees, citizens, everyone that can be potentially an endpoint to compromise. So
let me follow up with this, Danny. Moses was talking about what you were mentioning, target-rich cyber poor, as the example. Does that mean right now, like the role of the IT person at a school, and we always call it the IT guy, IT girl, IT person, right? It used to be about finding passwords, making sure that the Wi-Fi wouldn't go down, making sure there's enough access points for the Wi-Fi. Is that role going to change as well to be more geared towards protecting the school's data, protecting just some like really sensitive information? And how does that play out when schools already can't afford certain basic necessities? How does that play out?
I think the first line is I think we're coming to a point where you can't afford not to do this.
Yeah.
And but unfortunately, it's human nature. They say in AAA, the times that the people apply for AAA is after they get a flat tire, right? Because you're stranded. And the thing is, that's just human nature for unfortunately. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, and shockingly, that's the kind of the mode of operation of most entities or corporations or companies. And especially in companies that are cyber poor. And cyber poor doesn't mean that it's a not profitable company or not. There's some highly profitable companies that are cyber poor because they're not aware of the threat and danger. Or sometimes their IT staff or security staff are homegrown and they don't have the training and the expertise. Fortunately, I recruited Moses because he had industry and enterprise experience, and it was almost overkill to bring him into a school. But then now, when we're realizing that it was actually not overkill at all, because this is one of those target-rich areas. Because there's a lot of who wouldn't pay out if someone held student data at ransom, and you can potentially close down a school, right? It's a huge disruption, and so people are finding these target-rich areas that are cyber poor. It's everywhere. So,
Sure.
case in point, one of the things that the hackers use is, every Tuesday or once a month, different organizations, whether you have Windows or other products, they'll actually have display the threats of things that need to be patched. Hey, we just found this hole in our product. You need to patch it. There used to be like Patch Tuesdays and things. What cyber criminals do is they actually look for those events and then say, okay, that's a hole. Thank you for telling us. And then it takes sometimes a year or more for everyone to actually patch those holes. So all the criminals need to know is all the holes that have been told by companies, and then they go after machines that just haven't been patched. I mean, think about all the different ways in a hacker could have. It's so, and they only need to find people who have been sloppy or lazy or cyber poor, and then
Mhm.
there's an entry in. So it's a green field of opportunity for hackers out there.
Well, one of the things about the video of CISA was that I think the interviewer asked, how feasible is it for CEOs to embrace and deal with cyber risk? Why should they look at cyber risk as a business risk?
Mhm.
You mentioned last time about the whole MGM scenario or fiasco. What it would have been like in that boardroom without having maybe a lack of cyber credentials by the directors. I don't know, but I mean, is it really coming to a point where not having some cyber credentialed person in the room making decisions, is that a business risk? And how do we mitigate that? How do we kind of solve for that? Do we always have to hire like an executive that has cyber credentials, or is there something we could do with the workforce?
What's interesting is Jen Easley finished that interview and that segment by saying it's it's such a critical function and priority that you cannot delegate this. So what she's saying is it actually belongs at the C level and board level, and it cannot be delegated because once you delegate it, you may not know the urgency and the potential impact, and that needs to be at the highest level. I think we have to, as a business, as individuals, get to the point where, right now, if I get in a car and I don't put the seatbelt on my car, I actually feel kind of naked, right? Because it's such an ingrained thing in our mind. That's kind of how we need to get to our businesses and individually. When we don't have the right cybersecurity mechanisms in place, we should actually all feel naked. And that has to come from top down. That it's taken as seriously and as a priority, because you don't want to look for getting AAA type service after you get a flat
After the
tire.
fact. Yeah.
Yep. And so corporations that wait, and their flat tire could be ransomware or malware that somehow either disrupts or shuts down the business. And that could be a huge cost. If not, at some point, it may not even be recoverable. So it is a huge threat to the business if you don't mitigate this ahead of time.